You know, there's a special kind of pain that comes with getting old. Your body slows down, your memory isn't what it used to be, and the world moves faster than you can keep up with anymore. But none of it, compares to the pain of watching your own flesh and blood look at you like you're already dead, like you're just an obstacle standing between them and what they think they deserve. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what they tried to do to me. What matters is that I'm still here to tell this story, and they're not where they thought they'd be. Not even close. Let me take you back to where this all started. Back when I still believed in family. Back when I still thought blood meant something. My wife, Margaret, God, how I missed that woman. She passed away 2 years ago. 47 years we were married. 47 years of building a life together, of sacrificing, of saving every penny we could to make sure our son would have something better than what we had. We bought this house in 1982. It was a fixer-upper back then, practically falling apart, but Margaret saw potential where everyone else saw rubble. We poured our hearts into every wall, every floor, every corner of this place. She painted the kitchen yellow because she said it reminded her of sunshine. I built the deck out back with my own 2 hands, replaced it twice over the years. We planted the garden together, roses, tomatoes, her favorite lilacs by the fence. This wasn't just a house. This was our legacy. This was 47 years of love soaked into the foundation. When Margaret died, a part of me died with her. You spend nearly half a century with someone, they become part of your heartbeat. The house felt empty without her. Too quiet, too still, but it was still our house, still filled with her memory in every corner. I could still smell her perfume in the bedroom, still see her sitting in her favorite chair by the window, reading those romance novels she loved so much. I thought, foolishly, naively, that my son David would understand that he would respect what his mother and I built, that he would honor her memory. I was wrong. David is my only child. We gave him everything we could, put him through college, helped with his wedding, gave him the down payment for his first car. Was I a perfect father? No. I worked long hours at the factory, missed some school events, wasn't always there for the heart-to-heart talks. But I provided. I kept a roof over his head and food on the table. I thought that counted for something. He married Linda 12 years ago. I'm going to be honest with you. I never liked her. There was something about the way she looked at things, always calculating, always measuring value. At their wedding, I caught her counting the cash gifts before the reception was even over. Margaret told me I was being too harsh, that I needed to give her a chance. So I did. I swallowed my doubts and welcomed her into our family. That was my first mistake. For the first few years after Margaret passed, they seemed supportive. David would call every Sunday, ask how I was doing, if I needed anything. Linda would come by occasionally, bring groceries, help me sort through Margaret's things. I thought maybe I'd been wrong about her. Maybe grief had softened her. Maybe she actually cared. Looking back now, I can see it for what it was. They were circling, waiting, watching for signs of weakness like vultures watching a dying animal in the desert. It started small. So small I almost missed it. About 6 months after the funeral, Linda suggested I should think about simplifying my life. That's the word she used, simplifying. She said the house was too big for one person, that it was too much maintenance for a man my age. I was 73, not 90. I could still mow my own lawn, still climb the stairs to my bedroom, still cook my own meals. But she planted that seed. Told me I should start thinking about my options. Then David stopped coming by as often. The weekly visits became bi-weekly, then monthly. He was always busy. Work projects, Linda's family events, things with their friends. But he'd still call, always asking the same questions. How was I managing? Was the house getting to be too much? Had I thought about what Linda said? The subtle disrespect started creeping in around month 8. Linda would rearrange things when she came over. Move my medications, reorganize the kitchen cabinets, throw away Margaret's things without asking. Once, I came home from a doctor's appointment to find she'd donated 3 boxes of Margaret's clothes to Goodwill. Just decided on her own that I didn't need them anymore. When I got upset, she acted like I was being unreasonable. Said she was just trying to help me let go. let go. As if 47 years could just be boxed up and shipped off to strangers, she started talking to me like I was a child, using that slow, overly patient voice you'd use with a confused toddler. "Now, Dad," she'd call me Dad even though I'd never given her permission. "We've talked about this, remember? You need to start thinking practically about your future." My future? She said it like I didn't have much of one left. David started backing her up. My own son, siding with her condescension. When I'd protest, he'd say, "Linda's just trying to help, Dad. We're worried about you." But I could see it in his eyes. That distance, that impatience, like I'd become an inconvenience. The isolation happened gradually. They stopped inviting me to family gatherings. "We thought you'd be too tired, Dad. It's a long drive for you. The noise would probably be too much." Always excuses, always wrapped up in fake concern. I'd call David to talk, and Linda would answer, tell me he was busy, that she'd have him call me back. He rarely did. They were cutting me off from my own son, piece by piece, and I was only just beginning to understand why. Then came the real push. About a year after Margaret died, Linda started bringing up estate planning every single time she came over. She had pamphlets from lawyers, articles printed from the internet, statistics about elder care and financial protection. She'd spread them across my kitchen table, Margaret's kitchen table, and talk at me for hours about trusts and power of attorney and property transfers. "For your own protection," she'd say, sliding papers toward me, "you don't want the government taking half of everything when the time comes. You need to transfer the house into David's name now, while you're still alive. It's just smart planning." Smart planning. For them, maybe. I told her I wasn't interested, that I'd think about it, that I needed to talk to my own lawyer first. She'd smile, this tight, forced smile, and say, "Of course, take your time." But the next visit, she'd be back with more papers, more pressure, more of that condescending patience that made my blood boil. David started pushing too, calling me, saying we needed to talk about practical matters, saying he was worried about what would happen to the house if I got sick, if I couldn't take care of myself. He never said, "when you die," but it hung in the air between every word. He was already planning for my funeral, dividing up what I'd left behind, and I was still very much alive. I'm a stubborn old man. I'll admit that. The more they pushed, the more I dug in my heels. This was my house, Margaret's house. I wasn't handing it over to anyone until I was good and ready, and I certainly wasn't letting Linda bully me into signing my life away. That's when things got worse. Linda started making decisions without asking me. She called my bank, told them she was my daughter-in-law and needed to discuss my accounts for estate planning purposes. The bank, thank God, wouldn't talk to her. But she tried. She actually tried to access my money without my permission. She scheduled appointments with elder care facilities and told me we were just going to look. Took me on tours of these sterile, depressing places where old people sat in wheelchairs staring at walls, waiting to die. She'd smile and chat with the staff, asking about availability and costs, while I stood there feeling like livestock being evaluated for auction. "Just in case," she'd say on the drive home, "it's good to know your options." I didn't want options. I wanted my house, my home, the place where Margaret's memory lived in every corner. The real wake-up call came about 14 months after Margaret passed. I'll never forget it. It was a Tuesday afternoon, early March, still cold out, that bitter kind of cold that seeps into your bones. I'd gone to my doctor's appointment, just a routine checkup, nothing serious. Linda had insisted on driving me, said it wasn't safe for me to drive myself anymore, even though my license was current and I'd never had an accident in my life. We got back to my house around 3:00. I was tired, ready for a nap. Linda said she'd make me some tea first, insisted I sit in the living room and relax. I should have known something was wrong right then. Linda never did anything nice without an ulterior motive. But I was exhausted, and I let my guard down. I was dozing in my recliner, Margaret's favorite chair, the one I kept exactly how she left it, when I heard voices from the kitchen, low voices, trying to be quiet. I recognized David's voice immediately. He must have let himself in with the spare key, but they didn't know I was awake. "Can't keep putting this off," Linda was saying. "He's being completely unreasonable. The house is just sitting here and we could—" "I know, but he's my father," David said. He sounded tired, frustrated. We can't just force him out. We're not forcing him out. We're helping him make the smart choice. David, do you know how much this property is worth? With the market the way it is right now, we could sell this place for at least $850,000. Maybe more. That's life-changing money. My house, our house, Margaret's and mine. They were talking about selling it like it was an investment property, not a home. He'll never agree to sell, David said. Then we don't ask him to sell. We get him to transfer it to you, put him in Silver Pines. They have availability starting in May. And once the house is in your name, what you do with it is your business. He doesn't even have to know until after. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Silver Pines. That was one of those facilities she'd dragged me to. Tiny rooms, shared bathrooms, activities directors treating grown adults like preschoolers. She wanted to warehouse me so she could steal my house. I don't know, Linda. David sounded uncertain. Good. Maybe there was still some of my son left in there. David, her voice turned sharp, cold. Your father is 74 years old. He's alone, he's declining, and he's sitting on almost $1 million in real estate that he doesn't even need. We have credit card debt, your car is 10 years old, and we haven't taken a real vacation in 5 years. Meanwhile, he's rattling around in this huge house, clinging to the past, being selfish. Selfish? She called me selfish. What about what Mom would have wanted? David asked quietly. Your mother is dead, David. She doesn't want anything anymore. And honestly, she'd probably want you to be practical, to secure your future, to not let false sentimentality ruin your life. False sentimentality. 47 years of marriage, a lifetime of memories, my wife's legacy. And she called it false sentimentality. Silver Pines is expensive, David said. How would we even afford? We'd use his money at first. He has plenty in savings. Then, once the house sells, we'd have more than enough to cover it for however long. She trailed off, but the implication was clear. However long I had left. They were betting on me dying soon. What if he fights us? David asked. What if he lawyers up? Linda laughed. Actually laughed. He's an old man, David. Old people get confused. They forget things. All we need is to establish that he's not capable of managing his own affairs, and we can get power of attorney. I've already started documenting his episodes. Episodes. What episodes? I wasn't confused. I wasn't declining. I was grieving my wife, and they were using my grief as evidence of incompetence. I've been taking photos every time I come over, Linda continued. The dishes in the sink, the unmade bed, the expired food in the fridge, building a case that he can't care for himself anymore. I've got a folder full of documentation. When the time comes, we'll have everything we need. My hands were shaking. I don't know if it was rage or fear or heartbreak, probably all three. And you're sure this is this legal? David asked. It's completely legal. Families do it all the time. We're acting in his best interest, making sure he's cared for. The fact that it also benefits us is just a fortunate side effect. Besides, would you rather he leave everything to some random charity? Or worse, meet some woman and get remarried? The thought had never even crossed my mind. I'd loved one woman my entire adult life. I'd die loving her. But Linda had thought of it, had planned for every possible threat to her inheritance. I guess you're right, David said, and my heart shattered. My son, my only child, the boy I'd raised, put through school, sacrificed for. He was agreeing to betray me. Of course I'm right. Now, I've got the preliminary papers in the car. We just need to ease him into signing a power of attorney first. Tell him it's just in case of emergency. Once we have that, the rest is easy. What if he won't sign? Then we go route B. We have him declared incompetent. I've already talked to Dr. Morrison. You know, my cousin who's a psychiatrist. He said if I can document enough concerning behavior, he could do an evaluation. It's messier, takes longer, but it works. They had a backup plan. They'd thought of everything. When do we start? David asked. Tonight. We'll have dinner with him, butter him up, and then I'll bring up the power of attorney. Nice and casual. Just a safety measure. He'll probably say no at first, but we'll wear him down. I'll start coming by every day if I have to. By the end of the month, we'll have what we need. I sat there in Margaret's chair, my eyes closed, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. They thought I was asleep. They thought I was weak. They thought I was beaten. They had no idea who they were dealing with. I'd survived poverty as a child, worked my way up from nothing, raised a family on factory wages, watched my wife die slowly from cancer and kept going. I'd built this entire life from scratch with my own 2 hands and my own sweat. Did they really think I'd just roll over and let them take it all? I stayed in that chair, playing possum, listening to them plan my imprisonment and my dispossession. They talked for another 20 minutes, working out details, discussing timing, actually laughing, about how confused I'd been acting lately. When they finally came into the living room to wake me for dinner, I played along, acted groggy, let Linda fuss over me, pretending to care, ate the meal David had picked up from some restaurant, listened to their fake small talk, their manufactured concern, and when Linda casually brought up the power of attorney, just as a safety measure, Dad, just in case something happens and you need someone to make decisions. I looked her right in the eye and said I'd think about it. I saw the flash of frustration cross her face before she covered it with that patient smile. Of course, she said, take your time. We just want what's best for you. What's best for me. Right. After they left, I sat in the dark for hours. Didn't turn on any lights. Just sat there in the house Margaret and I built, surrounded by 4 decades of memories, and let the reality of what was happening sink in. My son was going to betray me. My daughter-in-law was orchestrating my destruction. They were going to take everything Margaret and I had worked for, lock me away in some institutional prison, and probably celebrate while doing it. But here's what they didn't understand, what they couldn't possibly know. I wasn't the confused old man they thought I was. I wasn't weak. I wasn't helpless. And I sure as hell wasn't going down without a fight. That night, sitting in the darkness of my living room, something changed inside me. The grief that had been weighing me down for 14 months began to crystallize into something else, something harder, something cold and calculated. They wanted to play games with my life? Fine. But they were playing against someone who had nothing left to lose and everything to protect. The war had begun. They just didn't know it yet. The next morning, I woke up with the clarity I hadn't felt since Margaret died. The fog of grief was still there. It would always be there, but now it had company. Anger, purpose, a burning need to protect what was mine and make sure they paid for what they were trying to do. I'm not a stupid man. Never have been. I might not have fancy degrees or use big words, but I know people. I know how to read a situation, and I know that if you're going to fight, you better fight smart. They thought they were so clever, plotting behind my back, documenting my decline, building their case against me. But they made one critical mistake. They underestimated me. They saw an old, grieving widower and assumed that meant weak, pliable, easy to manipulate. They forgot that I'd been navigating office politics and union negotiations for 40 years. They forgot that I'd raised a family through recessions and layoffs. They forgot that you don't build something from nothing without being tough as nails. So, I did what any good strategist does. I played weak while I built my defenses. That Tuesday morning, I started with the basics. I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with, what rights I had, and what they could actually do to me. I called my doctor first, Dr. Patterson, who'd been my physician for 23 years. I told him everything, the whole story, how Linda and David were trying to have me declared incompetent, how they were documenting episodes that didn't exist. Bill, he said, my name is Bill, by the way, though it doesn't matter much anymore. Bill, I've been seeing you for over 2 decades. You're sharp as a tack. You're grieving, yes, but there's nothing wrong with your mental faculties. If anyone tries to claim otherwise, I'll testify to that fact. First victory. Small, but important. Next, I called my financial advisor, Tom Chen. Tom had helped Margaret and me plan our retirement, had watched our modest savings grow over the years. I told him I needed to see him immediately. Private meeting. Urgent. We met that afternoon at a coffee shop 2 towns over. I didn't want to risk Linda or David seeing us together. I was already learning to think like them, suspicious, cautious, always watching my back. I laid it all out for Tom, everything I'd overheard, their plans to force a power of attorney, to have me declared incompetent, to take the house and warehouse me in Silver Pines. Tom's face went dark. Bill, What they're describing is elder financial abuse. It's actually illegal in this state. But the problem is proving intent. If they get power of attorney from you willingly, even through coercion, it's much harder to fight. So what do? We protect your assets now. Before they can touch anything, we set up an irrevocable trust, move your property into it, establish clear beneficiaries. Once it's in the trust, it's untouchable. They can get all the power of attorney paperwork they want. Won't matter. They can't access what's in a trust. How long does that take? If we move fast, a week, maybe less. I have a lawyer I work with who specializes in estate protection. Let me make some calls. That afternoon, Tom set up a meeting for the next day with Patricia Morrison, an estate attorney who looked like somebody's sweet grandmother but had a reputation for being absolutely ruthless in protecting her clients. She was expensive. The consultation alone cost me $500, but she was worth every penny. Patricia listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and smiled. Not a warm smile, a shark smile. "Mr. Fletcher," she said, "what your son and daughter-in-law are attempting is called undue influence and financial exploitation. In some cases, it rises to the level of criminal elder abuse. But here's the beautiful thing. They haven't succeeded yet. You're still in control. You're still competent. I can tell that just from talking to you for 10 minutes, and we're going to make absolutely certain they never get what they're after." She outlined a plan. First, we'd create an irrevocable living trust. The house, my savings, my investments, everything would go into it. I'd be the trustee while I was alive and competent, maintaining full control. But the assets themselves would be owned by the trust, not by me personally. That meant, even if they somehow got power of attorney, they couldn't touch any of it. Second, we'd establish a successor trustee, someone trustworthy who would manage everything if I became truly incapacitated. Not David. Never David. "Do you have anyone?" Patricia asked. "Other family? A close friend?" I thought about it. Most of my friends were dead or in nursing homes themselves. Margaret's sister Ruth was still alive, still sharp at 79. We'd always gotten along well. She'd been furious when Linda started pushing me around, had called me several times to check on me. "My sister-in-law, Ruth," I said. "She's trustworthy. She loved Margaret. She'd protect what we built." "Perfect. We'll name her as successor trustee." "And Mr. Fletcher? I recommend we also add a provision that specifically excludes your son from any inheritance if he's found to have attempted to exploit you financially or have you declared incompetent without cause. It's called a no contest clause. If he challenges the trust or tries to have you declared incompetent, he loses everything automatically." The irony was beautiful. They were plotting to take it all, and their plotting would ensure they got nothing. We spent 3 hours in that office, going through every detail, every possible scenario. Patricia was thorough, making sure there were no loopholes, no ways they could attack the trust, no legal vulnerabilities. By the time we were done, I'd signed enough papers to fill a small novel. "The trust is effective immediately," Patricia said. "As of right now, the house is no longer in your name. It's owned by the Fletcher Family Trust, with you as trustee. Your bank accounts are being transferred as we speak. Your investment accounts will be moved by end of business tomorrow." "How will they know?" "They won't. Not until they try to access something and discover they can't. Or," she paused, that shark smile returning, "not until you decide to tell them." I liked Patricia, but protecting my assets was only half the battle. I needed proof of what they were doing. Evidence that would hold up if things got ugly. Evidence that would destroy them if it came to that. That's when I got creative. I'm old, not stupid. I know about technology, not as much as young people, sure, but enough. I went to an electronics store and bought a small voice recorder. One of those tiny digital ones that can record for hours. Cost me $60. Best investment I ever made besides that house. I also bought a cheap smartphone, a prepaid one with no connection to my regular phone. Used it to set up a new email account that Linda and David didn't know about. Started documenting everything. Every conversation, every visit, every attempt to pressure me. I'd write it all down immediately after, with dates and times, and email it to myself, creating a timeline, building my case. The next time Linda came over, 2 days after that overheard conversation, I had the voice recorder in my shirt pocket running. She brought more papers, power of attorney documents, so confident, so sure of herself. "Dad," she said, settling in at the kitchen table, spreading out her papers like a conquering general. "I really think we need to finalize this today, just for your protection, just in case." "I told you I'd think about it," I said, keeping my voice mild, confused even, playing the role they expected. I know, but the thing is, David and I have been talking, and we're really concerned. You're forgetting things. Last week you left the stove on. The week before, you couldn't remember if you'd taken your medication." Lies, all lies, but I let her continue. "We just want to make sure you're safe. And if something happens, God forbid, we need to be able to make decisions quickly. You understand, right?" The recorder was getting every word, every manipulative, condescending syllable. "What kind of decisions?" I asked. "Well, medical decisions, financial decisions, whether you can still live here safely or if you need more support." "You mean like Silver Pines?" She didn't even flinch. "Something like that, yes. Just as an option, a backup plan." "And if I sign this, you and David can make those decisions? Without asking me?" "Only if necessary. Only if you can't make them yourself. It's just a safety net. A safety net that would trap me like a fish." "I need to think about it more," I said. Her smile tightened, just slightly. Just enough for me to see the frustration underneath. "Dad, we've been talking about this for weeks now. At some point, you need to stop being stubborn and start being practical." There it was, the mask slipping, the real Linda showing through. "Are you calling me stubborn?" I asked, adding a slight tremor to my voice, like I was hurt, confused. She immediately backpedaled. No, of course not. I just mean, look, I care about you. We both do. We're trying to help, but you're making it very difficult." "Difficult," I repeated. "You know what I mean. Just think about what's best for everyone, okay? Not just yourself. Not just myself." She was actually suggesting that I should hand over control of my life and my property for their benefit. The audacity was breathtaking. She left frustrated that day, didn't get what she wanted. And I had the whole conversation recorded. Over the next 2 weeks, I played the same game. Act confused, act forgetful. Let them think their narrative was working. And all the while, I recorded everything. Linda coming over and rearranging my kitchen, telling me I'd done it and forgotten. David calling and asking pointed questions about whether I'd remembered to pay my bills, implying I was losing track of things. Linda taking photos of my house. I caught her once, snapping pictures of some dishes I'd left in the sink, building her evidence of my decline. I even let her think she was succeeding, started acting a little more confused when she was around, asking her to repeat things, forgetting conversations we'd supposedly had. It killed me to do it, to pretend to be something I wasn't. But I needed her confident, overconfident. I needed her to think she was winning. Meanwhile, I was making other preparations. I reconnected with Ruth, Margaret's sister, told her everything. She was furious, called David names I hadn't heard since my Navy days. But more importantly, she agreed to be my successor trustee, agreed to help me fight. Margaret would haunt them both if she knew what they were doing, Ruth said. That house was her pride and joy. I'll be damned if I let that snake Linda get her claws on it. I also started reaching out to people I'd lost touch with. Other family members, old friends, people who'd known Margaret and me, who'd seen us build our life together. I didn't tell them the whole story, not yet, but I reconnected. Let them know I was still here, still sharp, still myself. Building witnesses, you see, people who could testify that I was competent, that I wasn't the confused old man Linda was trying to paint me as. And I watched them, studied them, learned their patterns. Linda came by every Tuesday and Thursday like clockwork. David called every Sunday evening. They were coordinating, I realized. Probably had a shared calendar somewhere, tracking their campaign against me. Linda would report on her visits, David would follow up with his calls, and together they'd adjust their strategy. They thought they were being subtle. They weren't. I discovered something else during this time. Linda had been talking to the neighbors. Mrs. Chen next door mentioned it to me one afternoon when I was getting the mail. "That daughter-in-law of yours was asking me some strange questions last week," she said. Wanted to know if I'd noticed you acting confused, if I'd seen you doing anything concerning. I told her you seemed fine to me, but she kept pushing. Asked if I'd be willing to write a statement if needed. Building her case, getting independent witnesses to support her narrative. Except Mrs. Chen didn't buy it, thank God. Neither did the Johnsons on the other side. They'd known me for 15 years. They knew I was fine. But Linda had tried, and that told me something important. She was getting desperate, impatient. She wanted this done, wanted the house in their name, wanted me out of the way, which meant she was going to push harder. Sure enough, 3 weeks after I overheard their original conversation, David came over alone, without Linda. That should have been my first warning sign. "Dad, we need to talk," he said, settling onto the couch with this serious expression. "About what?" "About you, about your future. Linda and I are worried." "Linda's always worried," I said. "Dad, please, this is serious. You're not getting any younger. You're alone in this big house. You're forgetting things. Last time Linda was here, you left the burner on after making tea." Another lie. I'd never done that, but I didn't argue. "We think it's time to seriously consider Silver Pines. They have a room available starting next month. We've already put down a deposit." My blood turned to ice. "You did what?" "We put down a deposit. Refundable, of course, but we wanted to secure the spot. Dad, it's a nice place. You'd have your own room, people to talk to, activities." "I don't want activities. I want my home." I know, but you have to be realistic. What if you fall? What if something happens and no one finds you for days? At Silver Pines, there's staff 24/7. It's safer." "What about the house?" He hesitated, just for a second, but I saw it. "We'd take care of it, make sure it's maintained, maybe rent it out to cover the costs of Silver Pines." Rent it out. They were going to rent out Margaret's house. Strangers living in the rooms where we'd raised our family, sleeping in the bed where my wife died, eating at the table where we'd shared 47 years of meals. "And if I say no?" I asked quietly. "Dad." He rubbed his face, looked uncomfortable, like he'd rehearsed this speech with Linda and was trying to remember his lines. "Look, we didn't want to do this, but Linda's been documenting some concerning behaviors. We have evidence that you might not be able to safely care for yourself anymore. If we have to, we can petition the court for guardianship. We don't want to. It's expensive and time-consuming, and it would be hard on everyone. But if you won't agree to get the help you need voluntarily, we might not have a choice." There it was. The threat. Sign over control voluntarily, or they'd take it by force. And the way he said it, stilted, uncertain, I knew Linda had coached him. Told him exactly what to say. My son was just her puppet now. "I need time to think," I said. "You don't have much time. The room at Silver Pines won't wait forever." "And Dad?" He looked at me with something that might have been guilt, might have been pity. "Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. We're trying to help you." After he left, I sat there shaking, not with fear, with rage. My own son, my own flesh and blood, threatening me, coercing me, using the love I had for him as a weapon against me. That night, I called Patricia. "They're accelerating," I told her. "They're pushing for a decision, threatening guardianship." "Good," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "Let them push, let them threaten. Every action they take now just builds your case. Are you recording everything?" "Every word." "Perfect. How do you want to play this?" I thought about it. Thought about Margaret, about the house, about 47 years of building a life that they wanted to tear down in a matter of months. "I want to end this," I said. "I want them to know exactly what they have done, and I want them to pay for it." "Then let's give them what they're asking for," Patricia said. "Let's set up a meeting. Tell them you've decided to discuss the power of attorney and the estate. Tell them you're ready to talk seriously about your future. Make them think they've won. And then we spring the trap. But Mr. Fletcher, when we do this, it needs to be decisive, complete. We're going to burn every bridge. There's no coming back from what I'm proposing." I thought about David as a little boy, teaching him to ride a bike, helping him with his homework, watching him graduate college. I thought about the son I'd loved and the man he'd become. And then I thought about him sitting in my kitchen, plotting with his wife to steal everything his mother and I had built. "Burn it all," I said. "I don't want bridges. I want scorched earth." Patricia laughed. "You know what, Mr. Fletcher? I think I'm going to enjoy this case." We spent the next week preparing. Patricia drew up new documents, the real ones, the ones that would protect me and destroy them. We planned every detail of what was coming, every word I'd say, every paper I'd present, every bomb I'd drop, and I did something else, something I should have done earlier. I hired a private investigator. Cost me $3,000, but I needed to know who I was really dealing with. I needed to know if Linda had done this before. Patricia recommended someone, a retired detective who specialized in background checks. Told him to dig into Linda's past, her first marriage, her financial history, everything. What he found confirmed my worst suspicions, and it gave me ammunition I'd need for the final confrontation. Meanwhile, I played my part. Called David back, told him I'd been thinking about what he said, told him maybe he and Linda were right, that maybe I was being stubborn, that maybe it was time to have a serious family discussion about my future. I could practically hear the relief in his voice. "That's great, Dad. That's really great. How about we come over this Saturday? We can sit down, talk everything through, look at the paperwork together." "Actually," I said, playing my cards carefully, "I'd like to do something nicer. Have a proper family dinner, like we used to when your mother was alive." "Oh, okay. Sure, we could do that. I'll make reservations somewhere nice. Saturday at 6. And David, I'd like Ruth to be there too. She's family, and I want her input on all this." He hesitated. "Does Linda need to be there?" Oh, I wanted her there. I needed her there. "Of course," I said. "She's family too. Besides, she's been so helpful with all this planning. I want to thank her." I could practically taste his relief through the phone. "Okay, Saturday at 6. We'll be there." After we hung up, I sat there for a moment, feeling the weight of what was coming. There was no going back from this. Whatever relationship I had left with my son, however damaged, however strained, was about to be destroyed completely. But then I thought about Margaret, about her yellow kitchen and her rose garden and the life we'd built together. I thought about them trying to take it away, trying to erase her memory, trying to profit from her death. And I picked up the phone to make the restaurant reservation. It was time to end this. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. Every day that week felt like an eternity. Linda came by once, all smiles and fake concern, asking if I was excited about our family discussion on Saturday. I played along, acted nervous but resigned. Let her think she'd broken me. "You're making the right choice," she said, patting my hand like I was a child. "This is what's best for everyone." Everyone. She meant herself. I'd made reservations at Giuseppe's, a nice Italian place downtown that Margaret and I used to go to for anniversaries. Private room in the back, just family, or so they thought. Patricia would be there, of course, and Ruth. But I'd also invited 2 other people, Dr. Patterson, my physician, and Tom Chen, my financial advisor, witnesses, professionals who could testify to my competence if needed. And I'd prepared something special for the occasion, a folder full of documents, copies of everything. The recordings I'd made, transcribed word for word, the trust papers, the timeline of their manipulation, the evidence of Linda's attempts to build a false case against me, and the private investigator's report on Linda's past. I transferred the audio files from my voice recorder to my prepaid phone so I could play them at the dinner, made sure everything was charged and ready. Friday night, the night before the dinner, I couldn't sleep. I walked through the house, touching the walls, remembering. This room where David took his first steps, that corner where Margaret would sit and read, the kitchen where we'd shared 10,000 meals, the bedroom where I'd held my wife's hand as she took her last breath. They'd wanted to take this from me, wanted to turn it into money, wanted to erase 47 years like it meant nothing. Tomorrow, I'd make sure they understood exactly what they'd lost. Tomorrow, I'd show them that this old man still had teeth. Tomorrow, the war ended, and I was going to win. Saturday arrived like Judgment Day. I got up early, couldn't have slept in even if I'd wanted to. My hands were steady as I showered and dressed. I put on the suit Margaret had bought me for our 45th anniversary. navy blue, still fit perfectly. She always said I looked distinguished in it. I wanted to look distinguished today. Wanted them to see exactly who they'd been underestimating. I arrived at Giuseppe's at 5:30. The private room was perfect, large enough for all of us, but intimate enough that there'd be no escaping the conversation. I'd arranged the seating myself earlier that week when I confirmed the reservation. Me at the head of the table, Ruth on my right, Patricia on my left, David and Linda across from me where I could watch their faces. Dr. Patterson and Tom Chen would sit at the far end, silent observers, professional witnesses to my competence and to what was about to unfold. Patricia arrived first, carrying a leather briefcase that I knew contained copies of everything we'd prepared. She looked exactly like what she was, an attorney who'd seen every dirty trick in the book and knew how to counter them all. "Ready?" she asked. "I've been ready for 40 years, I said. They just didn't know it. Ruth arrived next and I saw the fire in her eyes. Margaret's baby sister, still fierce at 79, she hugged me hard. "For Margaret," she whispered. "For Margaret," I agreed. Dr. Patterson and Tom arrived together, both looking slightly uncomfortable. They knew what was coming, knew they were here as witnesses to something ugly, but they'd agreed because they believed in justice, because they'd seen what Linda and David were trying to do, and it disgusted them. David and Linda arrived exactly at 6. I watched them walk into the restaurant, Linda's hand possessive on David's arm, both of them smiling, confident. They thought they'd won. Thought tonight was just a formality, a nice family dinner where the confused old man would finally sign away his life and his property. The look on Linda's face when she walked into that private room and saw Patricia, Dr. Patterson, and Tom sitting there, that was the first payment on my revenge. The smile froze. Her eyes darted from face to face, trying to understand what was happening. "Dad," David said slowly, "who are all these people?" "Sit down, son," I said. My voice was calm, cold, nothing like the confused, trembling old man I'd been pretending to be. "We need to talk." Linda's hand tightened on David's arm. She knew. Maybe not the details, but she knew something had gone very wrong with her plan. They sat. David looked confused. Linda looked calculating, already trying to figure out her next move. "I'm confused," David said. "I thought this was just a family dinner. To discuss my future," I finished. "My estate, my property, my competence. Yes, that's exactly what we're here to discuss." I nodded to Patricia, who opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "Let me introduce everyone properly," I said. "You know Ruth, of course. This is Patricia Morrison, my attorney, Dr. Patterson, my physician of 23 years, and Tom Chen, my financial advisor. They're all here tonight because I wanted witnesses, professional, credible witnesses to what I'm about to say." "Witnesses to what?" Linda asked. Her voice was tight. "To the end of your scheme." The silence that followed was beautiful, absolute. I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. David looked genuinely confused. "Dad, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about March 12th, a Tuesday, about 2 months ago. I came home from a doctor's appointment, and you thought I was asleep in the living room. But I wasn't asleep, David. I was listening. I heard everything. I watched the color drain from Linda's face, watched realization dawn in David's eyes. I heard you discussing how to take my house, how to put me in Silver Pines against my will, how you'd been documenting fake episodes to build a case that I was incompetent, how you were going to force a power of attorney and then, once the house was in your name, sell it. Sell the house your mother and I spent 47 years building, the house where she died, the house that holds every memory of our life together. Dad, I can explain," David started. "Explain what?" My voice was sharp now, cutting. "Explain how my own son sat in my kitchen and plotted to steal everything his mother and I worked for? Explain how you were going to lock me away in some facility and profit from my imprisonment? Explain how you were betting on me dying soon so you wouldn't have to pay for Silver Pines for too long?" Linda found her voice. "That's not... We never said... Oh, but you did." I pulled out my prepaid phone and pressed play. Linda's voice filled the room, tinny but clear. "Your father is 74 years old. He's alone, he's declining, and he's sitting on almost $1 million in real estate that he doesn't even need. We have credit card debt, your car is 10 years old, and we haven't taken a real vacation in 5 years. Meanwhile, he's rattling around in this huge house, clinging to the past, being selfish. David's voice. What about what Mom would have wanted? Linda's voice, cold and dismissive. Your mother is dead, David. She doesn't want anything anymore. I let it play. Let them hear themselves. The calculation, the greed, the complete disregard for me as a human being, for Margaret's memory, for everything we'd built. When it ended, the silence was deafening. I have hours of recordings, I said quietly. Every visit, every phone call, every manipulation, every lie. Patricia has it all, transcribed, dated, documented, your attempts to access my bank accounts, your staged photos of my house, your conversations with the neighbors, trying to get them to support your false narrative, your cousin the psychiatrist who was willing to declare me incompetent without ever examining me, all of it. Linda had gone from pale to red. You recorded us. That's illegal. You can't... Actually, Patricia interjected smoothly, in this state, only one party needs to consent to a recording. Mr. Fletcher consented to recording his own conversations. It's perfectly legal, and it's admissible in court. Court? David looked panicked now. Dad, why would this go to court? We can work this out. We're family. Family, I repeated. The word tasted bitter. You want to talk about family? Your mother, the woman who carried you for 9 months, who raised you, who sacrificed everything for you, died 2 years ago. Before her body was even cold, you and your wife started circling like vultures. You saw her death not as a loss, but as an opportunity. You looked at my grief and saw weakness to exploit. That's not fair, David said. We were worried about you. You were alone, you were sad. I was grieving. My voice cracked. For the first time that night, real emotion broke through. I lost my wife, the love of my life. 47 years, David. 47 years of waking up next to the same woman, of building a life together, of creating something that mattered. And yes, I was sad. Yes, I was struggling, but that didn't make me incompetent. That didn't give you the right to plot against me. Ruth was crying silently beside me. Dr. Patterson looked grim. Tom was shaking his head slowly. Linda stood up abruptly. I don't have to listen to this. This is abuse. You're an old man making up stories, probably confused, definitely paranoid. Come on, David, we're leaving. Sit down, Patricia said. Her voice was ice. Or I call the police right now and play them the recordings of you admitting to attempted financial elder abuse. Your choice. Linda sat. Patricia pulled out more papers. Let's discuss what's going to happen now. First, Mr. Fletcher's assets, all of them, have been placed in an irrevocable trust. The house, the savings, the investments, all of it. Mr. Fletcher is the trustee, with full control during his lifetime. Ruth is the successor trustee. Neither of you are beneficiaries. You can't do that, Linda shrieked. That's David's inheritance. No, I said coldly. It's my property, not inheritance, not yet. You were so busy planning for my death that you forgot I'm still alive, still competent, still able to make my own decisions, and I've decided that people who try to steal from me, who plot against me, who disrespect my wife's memory, those people get nothing. David was staring at the table. Dad, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Linda, she... Don't you dare, I cut him off. Don't you dare blame this all on her. I heard you, David. I heard you agree to every part of this plan. You're a grown man. You made your choices. You chose money over your father. You chose greed over integrity. You chose to betray me, and you did it consciously. I was weak, he whispered. I was stupid, but I love you, Dad. I do. Love? I shook my head. You don't love me, David. You loved what you thought I could give you. You loved the idea of my house turned into cash. You loved the fantasy of an early inheritance. But me, the actual person, you were willing to lock me away and forget about me. Patricia continued as if there had been no interruption. Second, Mr. Fletcher is adding a no contest clause to his trust. If either of you attempt to challenge this trust, attempt to have Mr. Fletcher declared incompetent without genuine medical cause, or attempt any further financial exploitation, you will be permanently and irrevocably disinherited. You'll get nothing, not a dollar, not a memento, nothing. You're also both being removed from Mr. Fletcher's medical power of attorney and his emergency contacts, Dr. Patterson added. I'll be updating my records accordingly. Ruth will be his medical decision maker if he becomes incapacitated. His financial accounts have been secured, Tom said. New account numbers, new passwords. You have no access. Any attempts to access them will be reported as attempted fraud. Linda was vibrating with rage. This is ridiculous. He's an old man. He won't live forever. When he dies, David inherits. That's how this works. I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. That's where you're wrong. I've already decided where my estate goes when I die. The house, Margaret's house, is being donated to a charity in her name, a foundation that helps widows and widowers cope with loss. The rest will be split between Ruth, several charities, and a college fund I'm establishing for any grandchildren David might give me. If he gives me grandchildren, if he can salvage anything decent from the wreckage of his character. Grandchildren? Linda laughed. It was an ugly sound. You think we'd let our kids near you after this? You're a spiteful, vindictive old bastard. And you, I said quietly, are a manipulative, greedy parasite who saw a grieving widower as prey. Tell me, Linda, how many other elderly relatives have you done this to? Is this your pattern? Marry someone with aging parents, then work on isolating them and taking their assets? Her face went white. Bingo. I'd guessed right. David looked at his wife. Linda, what is he talking about? Nothing. He's making things up. Her first marriage, I said. Did you ever wonder why it ended, David? Her husband's father had Alzheimer's. Linda was his caretaker for 2 years. When the old man died, he'd somehow signed over his entire estate to her, cutting out his own son, your wife's first husband. The family contested it. There was a lawsuit. They settled out of court, but the implication was clear. She'd exploited a sick old man. I pulled out the private investigator's report from the folder. I had someone look into your past, Linda. You've done this before. This is your pattern. Target elderly people, isolate them, manipulate them, and take their money. You're a predator, and you almost got away with it again. David was staring at his wife like he'd never seen her before. Is that true? It was different, Linda said quickly. He wanted me to have it. He was grateful for my care. He had dementia, I said. He didn't know what he was signing. Just like you wanted me confused and dependent so you could control me. David stood up slowly. He looked shell-shocked. I need air. I can't. He walked out, just left his wife sitting there. Linda looked at me with pure hatred. You've destroyed him, your own son. He'll never forgive you for this. Funny, I said. I was thinking the same thing about what you tried to do to me. She stood up, grabbed her purse. This isn't over. We'll fight this. You'll do nothing, Patricia said. Because if you try, I'll file a police report detailing your attempted elder abuse. I'll submit all the recordings, all the evidence, all the documentation of your history. I'll make sure everyone knows what you tried to do, your friends, your employer, everyone. And then I'll pursue a civil suit for emotional distress and attempted exploitation. By the time I'm done, you'll wish you'd never heard the name Fletcher. Linda's face went from red to white. She knew Patricia meant every word. She looked around the table, at Ruth's disgusted expression, at Dr. Patterson's disappointment, at Tom's cold stare, at my unwavering gaze. She was surrounded, exposed, beaten. Without another word, she turned and left. After they left, the room felt lighter, cleaner. Ruth squeezed my hand. Margaret would be proud. Would she? I asked. I just destroyed my relationship with my son. You protected yourself, Dr. Patterson said gently. They were trying to abuse you. What you did wasn't revenge. It was self-defense. It felt like revenge, I admitted. Maybe a little, Patricia said with a small smile. But sometimes revenge and justice are the same thing. We finished the meal. Me, Ruth, Patricia, Dr. Patterson, and Tom. Talked about other things. Tried to make it feel less like a war council and more like a dinner party. But I couldn't quite shake the weight of what had happened. I'd won. I'd protected my house, my assets, my independence. I'd exposed their plot and ensured they'd never be able to try again. But I'd also lost my son, maybe forever. The next few weeks were strange, quiet. David didn't call. Linda certainly didn't. My phone stayed silent except for Ruth checking in every few days. But I heard things through the grapevine. Mrs. Chen next door heard from her daughter who worked at the bank. Linda and David's joint account was overdrawn. Apparently, they'd been counting on having access to my money to cover their debts. Without it, they were sinking. David's car got repossessed. I heard about it from the mail carrier, who saw the tow truck. Felt a twinge of something when I heard that. Not quite satisfaction, not quite guilt, something in between. Linda lost her job. Karma or coincidence, I don't know. But she'd been working in healthcare, and apparently someone, Patricia swore it wasn't her, had made some calls about Linda's history of elder exploitation. Her employer didn't like the liability. She was let go. They had to move out of their rental. Couldn't afford it anymore. Moved into a smaller apartment across town. I heard David had to get a second job doing delivery driving at night. Everything they'd been afraid of, the financial struggle, the downgrade in lifestyle, the loss of security, it all happened to them. Not because I took anything from them, but because they'd been living beyond their means, counting on my death or my exploitation to bail them out. Chickens coming home to roost, my father would have said. 3 months after the dinner at Giuseppe's, I got a letter. Handwritten, David's handwriting. I almost didn't open it, almost threw it away. But curiosity won. It was short. Dad, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I can forgive myself. You were right about everything. I let Linda manipulate me. I let greed override my conscience. I betrayed you and Mom's memory and everything you taught me about being a decent person. Linda and I are divorcing. I should have listened to you about her years ago. I should have trusted my instincts. Instead, I let her poison me against you. I'm not writing to ask for money or forgiveness or anything else. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. And I'm trying to be better. To be the man you and Mom raised me to be. I hope someday, maybe, we can talk. But I understand if that never happens. I earned this. Your son, David. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in my desk drawer. Did I forgive him? I don't know. The wound was still too fresh. The betrayal still too raw. But I didn't throw the letter away either. 6 months after the dinner, I got another piece of news. This one unexpected. Linda had tried to run the same scheme on her own elderly aunt, a woman in her 80s with a nice house and a decent savings account. But the aunt had heard about what happened with me, small town, word travels, and she'd been prepared. Had her lawyer present when Linda started pushing for power of attorney. Linda was exposed again. The aunt filed for a restraining order. Linda left town after that, just disappeared. Apparently went back to wherever she came from, tail between her legs, reputation in tatters. Good riddance. It's been almost 2 years now since that night at Giuseppe's. I'm 76 now, still in my house, still competent, still independent. Ruth comes by every week. We have dinner together, talk about Margaret, keep her memory alive. Patricia checks in monthly, makes sure everything's still secure. Dr. Patterson confirms at every visit that I'm as sharp as ever. The house is quiet, sometimes too quiet, but it's mine, and it's still Margaret's. I can feel her here, in the yellow kitchen, in the garden, in every corner we built together. David and I have talked, 5 times now. Brief conversations, awkward. There's an ocean of hurt between us that won't be crossed quickly, if ever. But he's trying. He got a better job, is seeing a therapist, is rebuilding his life without Linda's poison in his ear. Will we ever have a real relationship again? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. But I do know this. I'm not a victim. I refuse to be a victim. They tried to bury me, tried to erase me, tried to turn me into a helpless, confused old man they could manipulate and exploit. Instead, I buried their plans, exposed their greed, protected what Margaret and I built. I'm not saying I'm proud of what happened. There's no pride in destroying your relationship with your child, even when they deserve it. There's no joy in exposing family ugliness to the world, but I'm not ashamed either. I fought for my dignity. I fought for my independence. I fought for Margaret's memory, and I won. Sometimes, late at night, I walk through this house and I talk to Margaret, tell her about my day, tell her about the roses blooming in the garden, tell her about the charity foundation we created in her name, helping other widows and widowers find their way through the darkness of loss. I tell her about David, about the slow, painful process of maybe, possibly someday rebuilding something with him. And I tell her about Linda, about the schemes and the plotting and the attempted theft of everything we built. And then I tell her how I stopped them. I like to think she'd approve. Margaret was soft-hearted, yes, but she was also fierce when it came to protecting what mattered. And our home mattered, our legacy mattered. I protected it, for both of us. There's a lesson in all this, I suppose, for anyone listening, for anyone who might be in a similar situation. You're never too old to fight back. You're never too alone to protect yourself. And you should never, ever trust someone just because they share your blood. Family is important, but so is self-respect, so is dignity, so is protecting what you've built. If someone is trying to exploit you, even if that someone is your own child, you have the right to defend yourself. You have the right to say no. You have the right to expose them and protect your assets and your independence. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for refusing to be a victim. Don't let anyone convince you that you're confused or incompetent or too old to make your own decisions. Get help. Get lawyers. Get doctors. Get documentation. Build your case. Protect yourself. And then, when the time is right, strike back. Not out of cruelty, not out of vindictiveness, but out of justice. Because you deserve justice. You deserve respect. You deserve to live your final years in peace in your own home, on your own terms. They wanted to steal my house. The house Margaret and I built with our own hands, our own sweat, our own love. They wanted to steal my independence, lock me away somewhere to die alone and forgotten. They wanted to steal my dignity, paint me as a confused, helpless old man. But I'm still here, still in Margaret's yellow kitchen, still tending her roses, still living the life we built together. And they're not. They tried to bury me before I was dead, so I came back and buried their plans instead, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. 4 years have passed since that night at Giuseppe's. I'm 78 now, still here, still sharp, still in my house. David and I have dinner once a month. It's not what it was. It'll never be what it was, but it's something. He remarried 2 years ago. A woman named Sarah who works as a teacher and doesn't have a manipulative bone in her body. She's good for him, kind, honest. They have a daughter now, my granddaughter, Emma. She's 10 months old. David brought her by last week. Let me hold her in the living room, in Margaret's favorite chair. She has Margaret's eyes, that same bright, curious look that my wife had all her life. I want her to know you, David said quietly. I want her to know what integrity looks like, what it means to stand up for yourself. I looked at my son, saw the regret still there, probably always will be, but also saw growth, change, a man who'd learned from his mistakes. She'll know her great-grandmother's house, I said. When I'm gone, the foundation will own it. But I've arranged for family, real family who respects what it means, to be able to use it, for reunions, for gatherings, so Emma can grow up knowing where she came from. David's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. I held my granddaughter and looked around at the yellow kitchen visible through the doorway, at Margaret's roses blooming outside the window, at the life we built that almost got stolen but survived. They tried to take everything, but I'm still here, and Margaret's legacy lives on. Not in money, not in property value, but in a home filled with love and memory and the unbreakable will of a man who refused to be erased. They thought I was weak. They thought I was finished. They thought I was an easy target. They were wrong about all of it. And now Emma will grow up knowing that her great-grandfather was a man who built something beautiful with his wife, protected it fiercely when threatened, and passed it on to people who would honor it. That's my victory. Not the money they didn't get, not the plans I destroyed, not even the justice I achieved. My victory is this: I'm still here, still myself, still living the life I built with Margaret. Until the day I die, this house is mine. And after I die, it becomes something even better. A place where other people can find healing, hope, and the strength to keep going when they think they can't. That's what Margaret would have wanted. And in the end, that's all that matters. They tried to bury me, but you can't bury a man who refuses to die. And I'm still here.